Call the meeting to order. Obviously not Mayor Stevens. He's home sick with a bunch of sick kids and wife. And was in the ER all night with one of them, so he's unable to be here. So I'm meeting in his absence. And communication.
Heavenly Father, we're so grateful for your mercy and love that you have for what you've created, Lord God, and we just acknowledge your lordship, Father. We gather again tonight to consider the issues that we see in this community, a community that has always looked to you for guidance. As we do tonight, Father, we open our hearts to you and ask you to lead us and guide us in our considerations. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Don. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Alderman Hughes. Alderman Curry-Witzman. Alderman Runge.
Here.
Alderman Austin.
Here.
Alderman Jackson. Here. Alderman Pittman. Alderman / Mayor Pro Tem Urbis.
Here.
Alderman McComb.
Here.
Alderman Strack.
Here.
Alderman Gladden.
Here.
Mayor Stevens. Okay.
All right. First, consideration of the minutes from the April 9th meeting. Anything to add or correct?
Make a motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion second, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? No? That passes. Thank you. Committee Commission reports, Budget and Finance, chaired by W.J. Pittman.
John, we have no items under old business. We have, under new business, we have consideration of accounts payable registers. Do we have any questions on the bill?
Motion paying.
We have a motion, do we have a
Second.
second? Motion and a second, all in favor of paying the bill?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item is financial statement prepared by Scott Evans, Budget Officer. Scott?
Thank you, W.J. Have two tonight, the income tax voucher report. So, for the month of April, we received $109,800, which is about $10,000 more than last year this time, considerably higher than the monthly average has been. So, that $399,000 we have for the first 4 months here is slightly ahead of budget. If you were to extrapolate that, that would be somewhere around 1.15 million instead of 1.108. So we're running a little bit ahead there. That continues to be a pleasant surprise. So, after the sales tax, the income tax is probably the second or maybe third biggest tax revenue we bring in. So know where we're at. So that's a good note. On the back of that page, we have the most recent healthcare cost analysis, and let's do March. And so through March, we have spent $159,663 citywide on healthcare and various pieces. And a couple things I'll note there. If you were to look at the same report the last couple of years, I didn't provide that here. But I looked at that just to kind of give myself a frame of reference to say, well, where are we at versus the same thing 1 and 2 years ago. We're about $10,000 more than last year this time, which really is not a significant number when you're talking about dollars this big. And we're probably about 15,000 ahead of 2 years ago. So we are trending higher with the new plan, but that doesn't necessarily mean anything at this point. It's still pretty early to tell that. We had pretty high month in the HRA component of that in March. As you can see, it's like 17,000, but that by no means is the highest month we've ever had, and you know, we budget pretty high on the what-if scenario for that thing to where it's going to be, and we're still well within that budget. So you will notice that at the very top line that the premium number did go down several $1,000s, and that is mainly, I think, for some hard work that Sandra and our insurance agent did to kind of go through and maybe look at some of the retirees that were on that plan that maybe needed to be maybe on Medicare first and then our secondary, or to get off the plan. And so those contacts were made, and we took, what, 3 or 4 people off there, I guess. And so that actually going forward will save us a few dollars throughout the year, which, you know, if we have an overage in the HRA, at least we might have some cost savings the other direction on the premium line. So, but I think, you know, if this trend for the 3 months, which is hard to tell it's a trend, but if that were to continue for the whole year, we still would be well within budget on general fund and water sewer. So far, we're doing pretty good there. But, you know, we have 9 months to go, so we'll see where that comes out. So, that's what I have. Questions?
Just the income tax, so that actually next month will be the tax filing money.
Yes,
correct?
yes, it's always a month behind, so, you know, we can take bets on what that number is gonna be if anybody wants to. But, you know, the trend tends to be a little higher, so it wouldn't surprise me if it was a little higher than the 170, just the way it's been going. But there's no guarantee of that, I guess. Sometimes I've seen some weird anomalies. What happened there? But trying to get that answer is probably harder than trying to find out, you know, the various components of our sales tax.
Well, I'll bet more than 109.
Okay. That's pretty
safe.
Pretty good bet there, yeah.
So people paid early this month, or this year, would that be?
Yeah, I'm sure there was some of that, you know. I don't know that, I mean, it probably also picks up some of the early April is about payments received and when there's vouchers. I mean, that all happens at a big, gigantic machine someplace, I guess, in Springfield, so. But the trend so far, for sure.
Yeah.
Any more questions?
Yeah, Scott, when did you tell us that the three payment months were?
For payroll?
Right. I forgot.
May is 1, and then I believe it was
October, I think is what you said.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's next month.
Yeah, so when you see my reports that have the salaries, you know, that you're gonna see that month be negative as far as comparing actual to budget, but I mean, it's anticipated, so.
That's what I needed to see. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Next item under new business, TIF application at 1306 Walnut Street. We have the application here for Brooke and Ryan Guthman. I'm assuming this is the same as the last couple we had. They were under that previous TIF agreement, and since we've done the amendments to that, they're doing work that they've already completed. They fall under that new TIF agreement. Does anybody have any questions?
Move approval. Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion will carry. Is there any public comment under budget and finance? Hearing none, we can move out of.
Thank you, WJ. Move to building grounds, chaired by Mike Austin.
Thank you, John. Under old business, we have none, and under new business, we have discussion regarding the credit purchase and sale agreement for solar energy. And we have Brandon and Ross here with us this evening, and gentlemen, anything that you want to toss our way and anything that you can say to help us, I would appreciate it.
Sure, thank you, Mike. We talked through some community solar options. Kind of at that meeting, it was more over to introduce community solar, talk through what it is, how it works, and give you some information. And then I asked sort of permission at that meeting to do a savings analysis for you, which we've got done. It's all good news. Also in that meeting, we asked if it would behoove you to know about some options for the wastewater treatment plant. wastewater treatment plant is your largest user of electricity, of course. And so Ross Rubenacker's here with us. He's our behind-the-meter solar guy. He's the solar panel guy. I'm the not solar panel guy, so I'm the solar farm guy. So just as a refresher, though, I mean, the city of Murphysboro can subscribe all of your usage to a solar farm and get that 15% credit off of your load. That came to roughly about $31,000 a year in savings, and over the course of the 20-year term was about $637,000 in savings. And as a reminder, that's no cost to subscribe. That's just a part of the State of Illinois' Green Energy Initiative, so there's an option there. But I wanted to bring Ross with me tonight to talk through some options on the wastewater treatment plant. We have an option where if the city decides to put a solar system at the wastewater treatment plant, which he'll show you in a second, we can subscribe all the other energy that you all have under management solar farm as well. And if we do that, we're still saving around $19,000 a year, or nearly $400,000 in the 20-year period. So a lot of moving parts there, but I wanted to sort of make myself available to answer any questions about community solar first, if you have any. Thank you, gentlemen, for meeting with us too. I mean, we got down to the nitty-gritty and looked through a bunch of details, but appreciate your time on that as well. I'm happy to answer questions if you have any, and/or we can get Ross to come up here and talk through the wastewater treatment plant. Does anybody have any questions?
Council have any questions for Brandon?
What, the state will pay a lot toward that solar plant went in on the solar. Don't the state pay quite a bit?
Yes, he's going to go over that. Yes, sir, they do. Indeed.
Richard, do you or Sandra or Scott have any questions for Brandon?
I don't know if I necessarily have questions. This particular agreement, the credit purchase and sale agreement, in reading it, I know it's not drafted specifically for a municipality.
Yeah.
If the city were interested in moving forward, it would take a lot of modifications. Not a lot, but some.
Yeah.
As far as certain timings, because the city has to approve certain things, we would have to allow time. There's confidentiality provision that would have to be amended because, of course, the city falls under the Freedom of Information Act. The same with making any public statements regarding the contract. The city couldn't go to Nexamp and ask their permission because in a public meeting, somebody asked about it, and the council members are going to make statements. Has a provision about arbitration and lawsuit, which council would never agree to that.
Right.
There's things like that. And I guess this may be a question more so. I know you said it would be no cost to the city, and I don't really understand how these operate, but I know there's a procedure by which there's an account set up for the city's invoiced, and then the city pays for the credits.
Yes.
And I'm assuming there's a way then that those credits get applied to the city's utility bill.
That's exactly right. The Ameren bills that you receive now will have a credit off of those. And effectively, you're buying your supply from the solar farm, but you're buying it at 85% of what it would have normally cost you with your Ameren bill. So that's where the savings comes in. It's a 15% decrease off the top. It's not, community solar is not rate driven. So if you got $1,000 off of your Ameren bill, you would pay the solar farm then $850. So that's where the savings would be. And that comes to, with a full subscription, that comes to about $31,000 a year. And we did the same, we've done this with several municipalities, a lot of those red lines we already have. So Pinckneyville was probably the best. He went through, we got a lot of red lines in Pinckneyville, so I'm happy to send that to you. We can go through that together. Nexamp's really flexible to work with, so we've never had an issue with redlining any of those things. But good question. Yeah, that's a very general contract, I said. It could be for hospitals or municipalities or school systems, whatever.
Well, can we,
I guess one thing for the council, under the agreement, if the facility's never developed, then, that's a basis for Nexamp to terminate. Well, Nexamp wouldn't be obligated to develop a facility. Or if laws were changed, the solar community project, if we no longer qualify solar community project, Nexamp can get out. Nexamp, they could always assign and sell this agreement to somebody else. They can use it as collateral for their bank to finance the project, things like that. I don't know the extent to which council members looked in detail at the agreement.
I think when we had the gentleman here who was building the solar farm in Virgins, he stated that before they build them, they like to have all the power sold before, to people, and before they get a project, that they would have to sell all, they would start,
About half. They
About
try to get
half.
about half of it under contract before they break ground. Yeah, and NextAmp actually has got 6 projects coming online. There's 2 under construction now. And I'm glad you brought the contract up, because if you wastewater subscribe all the usage to community solar, that's what we call an anchor tenant. That's the top level of the size of the subscription. You can do 15% of your entire load onto the solar farm, but they ask for a 20-year term agreement, which is what you have. As luck would have it, if you do decide to do the wastewater treatment plant, so we take that usage off of the subscription, then the new subscription is under that threshold for the anchor tenantship. So the new, if you go that route and you still want to put all the other accounts on community solar, now we're looking at a 3-year commitment, 3-year term with the same amount of savings. So there's something to be said there too, decision for wastewater treatment plant, but the remainder subscription would be a lot less. It'd be under that threshold of anchor tenant, so you'd be asked to sign a 3-year term at 15%, and that would renew every 3 years upon us meeting and making sure everything's correct every 3 years. If you add a couple buildings, or you build onto the project, or whatever the case may be, and you have more usage, we would adjust that subscription every 3 years to make sure that we maximize your savings, if that makes sense. So, yes, good questions, and we'll work together on those depending on how the rest of this goes. But I want to introduce Ross Rubenacker. He's got some information as far as the wastewater treatment plant. Does everybody have the savings analysis from last time I was here? Maybe I'll pass it back.
Brandon, probably the only one that wouldn't would be Angela. She was not here at the.
Forward here in a minute. No, you don't need it.
Yes, sir. Okay, she was here.
Okay, so this is another leg of what AG brings to their clients as far as your energy management spend and how to control that. We've always negotiated the rates. Community solar is another discount program. This is another option. We joke that Brandon and I are good cop, bad cop. Brandon just showed you some savings for free. I asked for a little money in exchange for a little bit more savings. But this is just a high-level markup of what solar at the wastewater treatment plant could look like for Murphysboro. And so what AG's role in this scenario would be to run the RFP process, to go get the bids, do the analysis on all the bids received, and ultimately present you guys with a recommendation. 0 cost to you guys. The only way that we get paid is if the recommendation we bring to the table, you guys move forward with that solution, and then our consultant fee is paid on the back end by the winning developer. So for whatever reason, none of the numbers make sense. All we're out is a little bit of our time and your time to go through this process. So same time, if it's not of interest, we don't want to waste each other's time, but so going into some of this, I won't go way deep into the weeds on a lot of it, but on that first page in the top left, you'll see some system specifics. Those first 2 line items are just the system size. On that first number, the DC number is your panel wattage, and the AC side is the inverter size. There's different ways to get to the same system between more panels of wattage, more wattage, less panels, but that's just system size. So something this size, we're looking at about a 400 by 140 foot piece of ground. This is just to give you an idea of how much space that would take up. It's not something set in stone. If you would shorten those rows and rather have 6 shorter rows than 5 long rows, we can do that. Again, just to kind of give you an idea. But this system will produce right about at 100% of the wastewater treatment plant historical load over the last 12 months. Something this size, just seeing what we see in the industry, we try to be a little conservative here. I'd rather under-promise and over-deliver than the opposite. So something this size, ballpark, would be in that $1.268 million investment. but you've got 3 incentives working against that, all cash for you guys. So to your question, is the state kicking in some money here? That first line item under the gross cost in the middle section, SRECs, that is solar renewable energy credits. That is the state's cash incentive. So they look at how much the system's gonna produce over the first 15 years of its life, and they're gonna front load that to you in the first 7 years. So that estimated value for what this system would produce is about $458,000. Direct pay is the new vehicle from the Inflation Reduction Act, where a municipality is not a taxable entity, would have typically left the tax credit on the table if you guys were to look at a direct ownership solar array. So this says, essentially, you guys are gonna register your project on a Treasury portal. You're gonna get a project ID, you're gonna reference that in a couple of tax forms, and submit essentially a tax refund to get that. So that direct payment is also a cash payment, you know, another $500,000 there. And then the last number in there.
Paid when?
It'll depend on timing with fiscal year ends, but to give you a ballpark window, usually about 12 to 24 months after the system's live, just depending on if you file. If it goes live December 31st, your turnaround filing January 1st for that direct pay. And
But
so in that case,
It's paid out at one time.
it's a lump sum payment, yep.
And who files that, us? Or is
So-
is that part of your agreement?
We can help you with it. You'll have to, whoever the city's contact is, will be the first one to put that information in, register the city with any kind of legal information, EIN number stuff. So we'll work with you in the development.
And it's a 990T form that they
That's-
fill out to get that?
So my tax advice comes with an asterisk. I'm not an accountant. But you reference it first on, I believe, a 3800, and then into a 3468, and then down to the 990T is the final number. So that looks like it's clicking in
It
your
makes
head.
total sense.
Okay. So you just, it kind of flows through there. You're checking boxes of, you know, are we in an energy community? Are we, you know, for the tax credit piece side of things. So,
Okay, gotcha.
that portal just went live at the end of last year. Our parent company has gone through it on a utility scale project in Verdonia, Kansas. So they told me they took some screenshots to help walk through that at the time comes.
That's a U.S. Treasury form, we said?
I believe it is under Treasury. It might be in the IR, might be on the IR. They may share the same portal, I'm not sure. But
Well, they're under the Treasury.
I've got the link to it. But long story short, the timing, I say 12 to 24 months, just depends on when it goes live versus your tax year, your fiscal year. If you go live January 2nd, and we're waiting for tax season to roll around next year, we're actually waiting 12 months to file that. And that last cash incentive in that middle column, SIR, Smart Inverter Rebate, that is an incentive from Ameren. That check, again, cash lump sum, will come about 6 months after the system goes live. This one I won't get into the weeds with, but as a DS3 account with Ameren, basically a small industrial account, the way you are billed, this is a free incentive. If we were looking at a house or a small commercial and insurance agent, something that's, you know, lights and computers and whatnot, then we would have to look, does it make sense to take that or does it not? But in your case, as a DS3 account at the wastewater treatment plant, you give up nothing to get a check for $132,000. So you back all 3 of those incentives off, your $1.268 million investment has a net cost of $171,000. We're not green people. That's kind of the icing on the cake for these projects from our approach, helping the environment. But what we look at is an energy management strategy. So this system in that far right column, it's got your current electric supply rate, but that next number is levelized cost of energy. So it takes that net cost over what that system's going to produce over its 30-year lifespan, which is typically what those panels are warranted for, from the manufacturer, to not fall below 85% of their year 1 production. So you're looking at basically pre-buying 20 million kilowatt hours for $171,000, and that comes out to that LCOE. That's not 8 cents per kilowatt hour, but that's 0.8 of a penny per kilowatt hour that you guys have essentially pre-bought with your net cost investment of $171,000. So that's where the numbers and the incentives look great, but it also, from our side of the table, it's a way to control that cost for the future. And so you start stacking this, you'll see that next line, $60,000 in the first year savings with Brandon's. There's several options depending on where we land, but another 20 or so thousand. If you piece these two together, you're looking at $80,000 in savings that first year when these both are live and going. So again, over the 30-year period, you're looking at just bill savings of $2.5 million. So those are in addition to all those incentives we looked at. Questions there before I jump to the next page real quick? This kind of ties it all together.
The SREC, you said that's state funded
Yes, so if you...
over 7 years? And is that a year by year? Because will they guarantee that for all 7 years?
Yes, and good question. I'll show you how that works on the next page.
Okay.
So this one's a little smaller print, and then my third page, you can get a little smaller. So this is just kind of a cash flow of what it looks like. So that first row, you've got your upfront costs of the same $1.268 million we've been talking about. Those next two red numbers are a couple of fees associated with the state's incentive program. The collateral that you put up is usually about 5% of that SREC total. But that is money, that is what I call your skin in the game, to make sure after they've front-loaded you these 7 years, that you make sure it continues to produce. That if an inverter goes out, you replace it. If trees and shrubs grow up around that, you control the weed growth around that to make sure you don't cause any shading impacts, that kind of stuff. But you get that money back at the end of that 15 years, assuming you guys have maintained that system. So all in, after the gross costs and those couple fees, we're almost right at $1.3 million. And so that first year one row, so your first black number there you see is SRECs. So that is the 7-year schedule. You'll get a lump sum for the first year's payment of that $55,000 or so. And then years 2 through 7 are quarterly installments. So that $67,000 will be broken into quarterly installments, years 2 through 7. And so as part of the paperwork that is done on the front end of these projects, you're applying into that program. And so it's not you guys are going to get SREC dollars over your neighbor that's also looking at going solar. The money is there. So once you have applied to the program and they've stamped your application, you're basically earmarking your funds in that block. It renews every June 1st. So next June, or here in the next 3 months, that pool is going to be refunded. Once that money runs out, the following June 1st, we know we got money being refunded. So if we're 3 months from now and you guys are just now saying, hey, let's do this thing, and say money has run out, it's not a question of if you will get them, it would just be in what block did you get them and what value. That value typically steps down a couple percent every year. Does that answer your question, Dina?
Basically, yes.
Okay, ask away if you got questions.
So what if the state decides not to be in this program anymore? Is it guaranteed?
It is set through 2032 is what it's funded through. So it used to be every time that money ran out, they'd have to go through 1.5 years, 2 years of legislation. This last time they did it, they set it up on, I believe it's a 12-year cycle. So every June 1st, they knew they had a new block of money. And so you've probably heard in Brandon's spiel, there's that line item on your Ameren bill that's renewable energy adjustment, I believe. That is what funds all these renewable energy projects and SREC dollars and incentive dollars to make sure that's still there. So you guys have been paying into it for God knows how long. So some of this money is yours coming back to you essentially. So it's in its own fund. It is not controlled in Springfield. It's set aside. It's geared for renewable projects. So
They can't sweep it like the
exactly.
like the university does.
So you keep going across that year one row. You got your smart inverter rebate from Ameren. This ties in the $60,000 in estimated bill savings that first year. I budgeted a little bit for O&M just to kind of be conservative. If something does go down, you've got some labor, whatever the case may be. Some companies will offer you an O&M agreement to come out and test connections and heat checks and tighten nuts and bolts and kind of the whole shebang. So you can enter those. I would say something this size. It's kind of up to you guys if you've got the skill set on staff to kind of manage that stuff. It's not moving. It's not the trackers that you see that follow the sun. So it should be fixed. So I could argue either way that you should or shouldn't go O&M. But I budgeted some in there just for cash flow purposes. And that direct payment, again, is a lump sum from Treasury. So in the first year of the total $1.3 million investment, you got $750,000 that will flow back to you. So in the far right column, when that number flips from red to green, that is when that system is paid for itself in nothing but incentives and bill savings. So every dollar or every kilowatt hour that thing generates after that is truly money back in the city's pocket. And then the last page, we don't have to go through this one. It's really hard to read. That was just kind of my month-by-month analysis of how I got to the $60,000 in bill savings. Between the kilowatt hours you use, the solar production, and how that flows through to your supply charges. Again, in conservative nature, I did not reduce the demand charges, your peak power charges. It is going to reduce that some. We have to look at hourly data versus hourly solar data. Usually we're in that 10 to 20% range, depending on how the load fits the solar production curve. But I put 0 in there for demand savings. Again, just to be on the conservative side. So, this could easily be $62,000, $65,000 a year in savings. So that is what solar can look like. I think also in your packet, I sent Mike our consulting services agreement. This basically allows us to work with Mike and Rick and Don, whoever would be on the building and grounds committee or who would kind of head this project, to build the RFP packet of where we want it. It includes some load information for developers to work on-site loads for the grounds, the electrical infrastructure, and ultimately run that bid process, usually about a month. We like to have an on-site visit for interested developers sometime around that second week, just to get boots on the ground for them. They like to see it with their own eyes, and then ultimately we'll have final questions due that third week, and then submissions due the fourth week. We try to make it as hands-off for you guys as possible. If there's something we can't answer from a site-specific question we get from a developer, we'd engage you guys, but for the most part, we'll handle all the questions. We'll field all the responses, run through our analysis, show you our analysis, and why we recommend developer A, B, C, or D, whoever the most economical proposal comes from. And again, back to, this costs you nothing to run through this process, whether you move forward or don't move forward with the project. That was my, I don't know how many minute spiel, but yeah.
Does the council have any questions for Ross?
So you didn't reduce the taxes on the post-solar side? Will we still be required to pay the taxes based on the kilowatt hour usage?
So the taxes I left the same as well, just from a conservative nature. You see those excess credits in there? In that third to last column? That stems from those supply charges that you see zeroed out. So Ameren says you can take those, the way their net metering tariff reads is you can take those excess credits within that month and apply them to your delivery charges. And if you have even more left over after that, then you can apply them to the taxes and other fees. But the way a DS3 account is built, you don't want to continually overproduce every single month because you're going to end up donating some kilowatt hours back. So there's kind of a happy medium there. It's okay to overproduce a little bit because the incentives are so good. And we can't pick and choose when the sun's going to shine. So if you lower your summer production, which is the highest, you're also going to lower your winter month production, which is the lowest. So having some of that overproduction you see there doesn't hurt you to an extent unless you're donating back every single month of the year, not realizing. So you'll see that those excess credits never actually grow larger than what you can actually use. So you've still got a little bit of a bill left at the end of each month, even after those overproduction credits. So I didn't reduce it there in that taxes column, but in the total column, it's reflected those excess credits. Clear as mud?
No, I understand.
Okay,
it.
sorry. Any questions on the CSA side? Pretty boilerplate.
Well, I guess my looking at the consulting services agreement under payment, the way this is written, the city did not owe anything for the commission. That's all I selected.
You guys, this process, whether you say, hey, we like the recommendation, we want to move forward with it, or all 5 of these submissions are grabbed and go kick rocks across.
But if it ultimately is a contract and an agreement, the contractor's going to add that cost to our final bill, aren't they?
Just, so we see it done a few different ways. Some just, they said, hey, it's $1 million, we're gonna add whatever the fee ends up being. Or some say, hey, we're gonna make a little less margin on our end to cover that consulting fee.
Is that something they would stipulate in the RFP? up front?
Yeah, yep, exactly. Yeah, I think the CSA says, like, we won't exceed 5% of the gross cost.
We're gonna pay it. It's in there.
Indirectly, I mean,
It's in there.
yeah,
Been in this business too long.
indirectly, you ultimately would pay it, just not a check, not a paper.
All right, are there any other questions for Ross? Don?
Just want to be sure I understand the whole process. We put bright sunny day, we overproduce during the day. The excess goes into Ameren, but at night, we're not producing, so we get the electric at night from Ameren.
Yep, so as you overproduce on that bright sunny day in July, that overproduction will actually back across your meter. So on your Ameren bill, you'll actually see, I believe it's excess generation, which is the number that is red going back across the meter. But you'll also see at nighttime or cloudy days or whatever the case may be, the number you physically pulled in from the grid. But then you'll see the net number is what your bill on.
Okay, that's the conclusion I've come
Yep.
to. I just want confirmation
And
that
this
my
size,
thinking's
this
right.
DS3 account we've been talking about,
No, the scary thing is we have to have batteries to run at night. No,
Yeah, it's
it goes
your
back. and
financial
forth.
battery.
Yeah, okay, very
And
good.
so the way DS3 works is small industrial class. You can roll those over day by day within that billing period, but not month by month on the annual level. So when you get into smaller residential and the insurance agent's office we've talked about, those smaller accounts currently still can roll over on an annual basis. They have a true up once a year. But on this size, they limit you to within the month.
John, I believe you had a question?
Yeah, so what's our upfront, actually, dollar spent? I mean, I know the 1.2 million.
If we run through this process and the lowest bidder comes in at 1.1, however you guys would finance that, bonding, traditional bank loan, whatever the case may be, that would be your capital outlay. But no, in 6 months, you got the 132 coming back. The direct pay is gonna be in that first year or two, depending on timing. And that 7-year schedule we looked at on the S-Track schedule.
So what's the next app? What's that agreement? So the consult agreement is with your company?
We're with the same people. We're bringing you these different strategies to help you control your spend. So this consulting services agreement is this on-site stuff we just went through. The next AMP agreement is on the community solar side of the brand.
Next AMP's the producer of the solar farm,
All right.
which is where we would assign your usage, if you choose to go that route.
The consulting services agreement says it's with Satori Enterprises LLC.
That's our parent company.
Scott,
Yes, sir.
do we have a way to fund 1.2 upfront cost?
Well, I was just going to ask you if that's something like, local banks would do. I mean,
So-
can you collateralize?
No.
You can't?
I mean, that's the issue. There'd have
I
to
mean,
be some specific funding for a solar project on a bank level, and I know
They-
a local bank, we're not doing that. I mean,
A lot of local banks have solar.
I'll tell you, at my local bank, that I that, and I know
Okay.
that,
A lot of
So-
the banks that are getting into the solar lending are starting to take the actual panels, racking, inverters, the solar equipment. So they're not putting a lease or a lien against your land or your building out there.
I mean, and that would be the only way for us to do it, would be the land and, you know, can't take the sewer plant because there's already a loan against it. And for one, we'd never get an appraisal
Well,
with, you know,
And I actually don't know if the parcel that the sewer plant sits on
Is separate from
is
that.
separate from this one or not. You know, the EPA may say, hell, you can't collateralize that piece of land. It's already under our umbrella.
and that's another question too. When we built a road down there, there's no bats on this property. Is there that are gonna keep us from building a solar plant on?
If you
Because that happened when we built a road
Turtles
down
are
there. We had to pay
if
the
you
EPA
need some
200 grand.
Contact for some of the solar specific
For bats.
stuff, I'm happy to share those with you.
Turtles.
For turtles, what was it?
Wetland.
Wetlands can,
Yeah.
so all that engineering is done in these
couldn't-
turnkey is what we're trying
couldn't
to bring
cut
you guys.
trees while
You
the
guys are
bats-
signing basically a contract. So the wetland delineation and all that stuff is all
Is
done
in
in the
there.
back end with this stuff.
Yeah, there is floodplain. obviously,
In here.
down there, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's all, so.
So would that
again,
be in
this is
addition
where it has
to
be.
the-
If we need to move it north, east, southwest, whatever, we can shift it around.
I just, you know, that would be something before we enter into an agreement, we would want to find if we could
Well-
get financing and
I figured, you know, our line of credit may be involved with this.
it's part, that could be a big portion of it,
You know,
yeah.
'cause we need to have some dry powder readily available, you know, until these things would kick in.
Right.
And unfortunately, you know, this fund is water sewer, which is always my biggest worry anyway, you know.
Have we done any sort of bond financing in the past? Like, is that,
Not since we've been here, but I think one of the previous big projects was, because that was the genesis of this bond reserve fund, which you've heard me talk about, that we have money in now. It's just a leftover, holdover account for those things when it was required by the bond issue.
I mean, with something like this where we're gonna get, especially a big, I would feel comfortable doing some sort of bond financing if we're payment of $500,000 back, you know, that we could time that bond to the same timing
We'd
as
have
we're
to get
getting.
some underwriters in here and
Yeah.
we'll have to issue that bond. Repay it back.
Quite a few different ways that we've seen people finance these things. Bond,
Right.
traditional, combination, line of credit, all of them kind of work together.
I mean, if between that and the line of credit, that's the bulk of everything. I mean, that's $500,000.
Well, I mean, if we didn't have a pending city hall building, you know, we could loan money from general fund to water sewer at whatever rate we're earning on our CDs or some kind of
Some
rate
sort of-
like that, but, and maybe we still could, because if some of these credits kick in relatively quickly and it pays this amount down, then maybe it wouldn't even affect the time frame for the building, let's say, you know? So that's a possibility too.
And I guess Pat, I mean, the way you guys use the property down there, I mean, does any of the that you guys do down there? I mean, it's,
The track team might affect them.
It depends upon how far that extends out. It could fall into the shotfall zone on that east house. It'd be kind of interesting to see how far it actually does extend that way.
but
Yeah,
that could
and
be
so-
taken into account when you do
Yeah.
the site survey
Right.
and
Yeah,
One
that
wall
is cutting the.
moving it to the other side.
eastern
There is
8
not
shorter roads than
Right,
5.
right.
dirt to build a road, it's just they can fill to the east side of the line.
And all that stuff is not something you guys will have to, that'll be part of the turnkey.
Whoever's gonna do
If
the
they need an
development of
access
it would
road,
come
yeah.
in and say,
Yeah, where the pile of dirt was, this,
Does this store power or it's just?
That would be batteries,
power?
which, what's that?
Does this store power or does it create power?
It does not. So we like to, depending on what you allow us to do, we like to leave some flexibility in the bid documents for those kind of outside the box. Pretty expensive.
So that's what
Especially
affect the standby generator. and power.
No, but those two can coexist. We'll just put the transfer switch in there so when grid goes down, solar shuts off for safety reasons and kicks on the generator.
right, so same as it is now.
Yep.
Or not anything that we've made, you know, rented.
Yeah, and so with you having a generator, I'd say batteries probably aren't something you want to spend money on, but it is not. You can add it down the road.
Any other questions for Brandon or for Ross?
I do have one question. Your calculations of the annual savings of 60,000, I'm not sure when you guys calculated it, but I don't think we've actually ever paid quite that much at the sewer plant in a year's time.
So I'm
Seems
using,
like 50 is about what our,
I'm using the new rate that just went in, what did it get renewed, 3 or 4 meetings ago?
3 weeks.
So I assume,
so are you saying at the end of the year, we're gonna be at 60,000 this year?
if my calculation is right, at that
Well,
80-cent supply rate,
And it could be.
more like
Yeah, yeah.
93 total.
If
But I'm using historical data in my mind here.
Yeah.
I think you went from like 5.5 cents to the new contract at like 8.
8.5, 8.4.
Yeah, so, but it was higher, but still under the Ameren rate, but. Yeah, higher.
Okay.
And I've got some business cards. I'll give these to you. Whoever wants one, I'm happy to pass them out. I'm gonna stack up.
Tim? Yes.
What is the average maintenance cost on a system like this after 10 years?
If you have the O&M agreement, you're just gonna pay whatever that annual cost is. A lot of companies will put a 2% escalator. If it was, you'll see it in my, well, you probably didn't make it back there, but I started with 5,000, it's like a budgeting number. They would add a couple thousand, or a couple percent to that each year, just as kind of inflationary numbers. But the panels themselves, there's no moving parts to them. So if you get a bad panel, it's probably coming off the truck bad. So it's gonna be under warranty, they're gonna replace it. They're whether like the building. The inverters are where you have your cost. They're doing the recording, so you can log into your laptop, your phone, your tablet, whatever, look at the real-time production of that system. It'll send you the red flag emails that an inverter goes down, you lose internet connectivity, all kinds of things. So that's kind of part of the affordability of solar is once it's operating, it should be pretty hands-on.
What's the life expectancy of a single panel? What's the average cost of replacement?
On a per panel basis, we can get that number from the developer. They get them at all different price points. But
More or less universal or?
should be, and you're talking probably like $300, $400, $500 per panel, I would guess. Obviously, the larger wattage panels are gonna cost a little more, but they use less of them, so those kind of average out. The inverter, something this size, if, say they had 5 inverters out here, all 5 went down at the same time, you're probably talking 25 grand, of just kind of ballpark it up.
Is that a hypothetical?
Yeah. Yeah, they won't. They're warranty for 10 years. If 4 of them go out in year 8, you're out a little bit of labor cost if somebody come out and swap them out. They all go out in year 10 then.
What would maintenance be expected from the city? Do they have to be cleaned annually?
Rain takes care of 99% of it, unless it gets a bunch of like tree sap built up on it, then maybe they need to be cleaned. But as far as dust and that kind of stuff from mowing out there, rain will take care of that. You really shouldn't have to have any dedicated staff to it. If you go gravel underneath it, maybe spray weeds once a year for anything popping up. If you go with like a low growth pollinator, weed that, spray it, whatever you want to do once a year. So again, it's really not, it's meant to be kind of hands-on.
That's all I have.
Thank
So
you.
gravel's a little more expensive than like a pollinator bed underneath there, but we can ask for 2 options in the bid document. Just say, hey, we want to go, or, yeah, too expensive, let's go. The gravel,
All options.
yeah, we put that in the receipt all the time.
Weather affect this, big hailstorm, do they,
So that would be one cost outside of this turnkey package I've been telling you is if you need to increase your, likely on the ground, it's gonna fall under your detached structure coverage, like a shed or an outbuilding would. So you'd have to adjust that coverage. If hail, tornado comes through, that would be an insurance claim, but if it's production related to that, like something went bad within a connection or whatever, that would fall under like the manufacturer, the warranty of the panel or the inverter.
no, it's just.
So back to the insurance agent.
Insurance cost, yeah.
Yeah, quote on that.
Anything at all? Good? Richard? No?
So
Sandra? Scott? Anything else?
Did anybody ask about like, I mean, are these things warranted for a certain period of time, a year, something like that, or?
Ross, are these things warranted for like a year or anything?
So outside the panels we can talk about, the inverters have their full production warranty or operation warranty. The developer that actually does that, a lot of them will include like a 1-year bumper to bumper to make sure that this thing's producing energy.
That when you pay for it?
No, it isn't included in your standard contract.
Well, I knew it wouldn't be like 15 years.
Yeah, and that's another thing. The beauty of these RFPs is we can look back and say what we want to say. If you wanted 15 years of bumper to bumper coverage, maybe we can ask for it. So a lot of them, I think when we get into some technical stuff in our packet, we call out at a minimum like a 1-year workmanship warranty.
Okay, cool.
Any other questions?
What I'm handing out now is the two community solar savings analysis. The larger one is
Thank you, Ross.
the full subscription. For whatever reason you decide not to go behind the meter at the wastewater treatment plant, you pass on that solution that he had, then we could always enroll all of the usage, and that would be under that 20-year tenant term. So that was the larger of the two savings. That's the 31,874. Average savings is let's call it 32,000. If we do go the wastewater treatment plant route where we do build the system there on the grounds like Ross was just talking about, the second attachment that I sent you there that I gave you is if we subscribe all the rest of the usage for the city under community solar. That turns into an average of just under $20,000 a year savings. And there's a lot of moving parts as far as the contract goes. Kind of get in the weeds a little bit, but if we take the wastewater treatment out completely and subscribe all the other usage, we don't have to do the 20-year term, we can do the 3-year term. That's about, average of about $17,000 a year, just for a 3-year ask. So a lot of good alternatives there. Really, it kind of depends on what your choice is on the behind-the-meter system. And once we make that decision and get that working either way, then we'll work with you on the rest of the community. So please.
One more question.
Yes, sir.
So if we build our castle here, and add that in, we can adjust then bring that into the plan, is that right?
Yes, absolutely. Whatever usage, generally, once that gets going, we wait about 6 or 8 months to get a feel for the usage of the new building. And then we add that subscription on at the end of the 3rd year of the term. So in between the terms, when they renew, we'll make sure that new usage is added on. Yes, sir.
Can we put solar panels on the ceiling, on the roof?
We can put solar panels wherever you want, boss. We sure can. Which is maybe a good, we actually, several companies that are building something in the future that are putting panels in their RFPs as well, so we
I think that makes
check on
sense.
that.
New construction.
All right, so we will continue working towards this project, and I urge anyone with questions to reach out to either one of these guys. They've been very accessible and very easy to work with, so I appreciate your time coming down this evening again. And the communications that we've had prior, I appreciate that as well.
And I'm assuming, are you gonna send a contract from like what we had, Pinckneyville, I guess, or somebody like purchased Richard, so he can,
I can send that over, or
or if you've got changes.
red line.
If you want to send it through Mike, and then Mike can distribute it to everyone else as he has.
Would you prefer the Pinckneyville red line version turned in, or you want to red line your own? And
I'd like to see that.
okay, you got it. I'll send that to you too. Get that in when you
Don't reinvent the wheel.
Thank you, Brandon.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you all
Ross.
very much for your time.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate your time this evening.
Absolutely.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thanks.
And second piece under new business is consideration of bids for replacement of heating and cooling unit at the shooting range. I believe we all have.
Chief, how long has that building been down there?
I think they built it in 2010 or 11, but that unit was used, it was a 2001 or 2004 unit that they put in there. About 3-4 years ago, we had a little bit of trouble with it. They pieced it back together, and I think it cost us like $2,200 then. So every year for the last 3 or 4 years, we've had this special line in here. It's a budgeted item for $10,000 in my budget. It's just we've been trying to get that $2,200 out of it every year, and we did. And actually, the last estimates that I got 6 months ago from a different company was $10,500 and $12,500.
It's gone down.
Yeah, so now that we have cranes, this is what we had Crane go out there. The $10,000 one, if you notice below description of work, it's a train 3.5 ton. You turn it over and look under the same area, run through 3.5 ton. All of the components and all the elements are that train makes run through, and they said that all the components are the same. The only difference is the sticker on the side of the unit that says train or run through. I looked at some comparisons, and it looks like one is just as good as the other as far as.
They both have a 10-year warranty.
Yeah, you got the same warranty set, components that go inside of both units for trains, so I'm fine with the $8,500 unit, I think.
Okay.
I make a motion that we accept the bid to put in the run-true system.
I have a motion for, to accept the Crane heating bid for $85.55 from Alderman Pittman. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Alderman Gladden. Do we have a motion? Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Chief. We have any public comment at all regarding building? Without that, John, we can move into community relations.
All right, thank you. Vance isn't here, so I'll cover those.
No, had a brain fart.
First, consideration of Big Muddy Monster signage. And I don't have anything updated. Do we have anything?
I thought we was going to email everybody or bring a copy.
Next meeting.
Yeah, move it to next meeting. And then we have consideration of placement of Big Muddy Monster footprints, which I guess that's what it's in our packet.
I mean, I think we talked about this last time, and Robbie Gray. At the same time, I don't remember what he said that process was to get the state on board with us.
Yeah, they have to be permitted,
Right.
so.
I mean, so are they just looking for our approval to go through that? I mean, we would help them with that process any way we can, obviously, but, I mean, I'm for it. If we can get them there, I think it would be great.
One quick question, were these footprints, which direction are they going?
All towards Riverside Park, I think, is what.
Okay. I've had a couple people ask about that, and that's what I thought. They said, well, that makes no sense. Why wouldn't the footprints be coming from Riverside to the statue where he's standing?
An epiphany.
Where was the siding?
That makes sense.
Where was the siding?
Yeah, the siding was down.
Because he's still there, but if his footprints are going the other direction.
That's where the siding was, I think, is why they were doing that.
That's where he was sighted, was at the park.
Yeah, but he's not there anymore. He's continually sighted down by McDonald's.
Yeah.
I mean, that's my only statement about it.
So do we need a vote to, with tourism to help get them?
They would appreciate that.
I make that motion.
I'll second.
Is there a stipulation in there?
Ultimately,
Consult
like,
with them to
yeah,
see.
consult with them and, you know, at least give our opinion on that, I believe.
I'd like to see how big they are, too. I don't know what.
I mean, we had the, in the accounts payable, there was a payment for the design of the footprint, so,
That was in your packet a couple
yeah,
meetings ago. I believe it's like 6 foot.
yeah.
Yeah, I believe the stencil is like 6 foot.
Well, it ain't Littlefoot, Scott.
Yeah. But when you're driving,
Yeah.
it'll be similar to the paw prints in the apartment.
Yeah, about the same, I guess those probably are about 6, yeah,
Bigger
close
than
to,
you think.
yeah.
Yeah. All right. So the motion was to consult tourism? Is
I
that
put
right?
work with tourism on
Help
getting the
tourism
state
get the
approval.
state
Yeah.
approval.
And decide which way they go. Directional.
Directional.
Okay, we got a motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, no? Motion passes. And we have no new business, any public comments?
Yeah, I do have public comment. Dr. Barr, next week, Tuesday, Tim, it's the 30th, right?
Yes.
Is the senior night for girls soccer and the last home game. Like to see what everybody's interested in doing, like a feed the team for them that night. And Barb and I talked earlier, I think in the past, the city has paid for some of that, but we were both said if, we're not willing to do that, it would only cost about $20 per alderman if we wanted to do that out of our own pockets too, either way, however.
What was the date of that again?
The 30th. Tuesday. Yeah, next Tuesday.
Senior night, and I believe it's
Play-
their last home game.
And it would be, I think last time we did Pat's Barbecue,
Yeah.
and Barb said she would make all the arrangements and make sure that that gets done. It'd be feed the team and the coaches. Obviously, would need some volunteers to help serve the team. Game would either end at about 11 o'clock or 8 o'clock, depending on how long the actual game takes place. If it's a short game scenario, like some of them have been in the past, it would obviously get over sooner, but we never want to say that's a guarantee, so we'll either 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock would be when we would be serving food. I don't know if I could be able to be there. My kids have practice, but I don't think it goes that long, so I could probably be there as soon as practice was over in time. But I don't know what you guys' preference would be, whether we could just pay for that and then it would be in the bill, to pay next month.
Well, I think it needs to be done. I'll make that motion to do that.
I don't think we can we do a motion since it's not an agenda?
No.
We just say, let's get it done and then it'll be on the account. Bills
Yeah,
next afterwards, yeah.
So April 30th,
April 30th.
Tuesday, okay.
Between 7 and
We want to go out there at
You go out
5
there
and
and
watch the game.
Game starts game starts at 6, you said? 6 o'clock, yeah.
Game starts at 6?
Yeah.
Let me make sure. But for now,
And
yes.
Barb said she would help organize. She said she'd call you and you guys would help get that together.
That's how Barb does it.
Yeah. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
So we'd have to touch base with Georgia out at the high school.
Well, so what Barb was, or Tim, I don't know if you want to talk to Tim, there's that pavilion right out there by the
Okay.
field. And if with it just being barbecue, we could probably serve it right under there right after the game and
Okay,
do it right there. We
Okay.
wouldn't even have to go inside the facility, so.
very good.
It is 6 o'clock.
Okay, game starts at 6.
As long as there's no lightning, they'll play.
Right, yeah.
All right, we can move out of community relations, go to public improvement, chaired by Mr. Glad.
Thank you, John. Under old business, discussing the condition of the properties at 900 block of Locust Street. And Charlie's not here, Mayor's not here. We'll hold that till next meeting, please. You've all received a copy of Chapter 17 of the revised code. We found one typo in there, but a question that we do have is currently 9 members are required for the Historic Preservation Committee. We're suggesting that we reduce that number to 7.
Is that just because it's hard to find that many people
That
to
is
get on
correct.
that committee, I imagine?
That's correct. Any other comments on Chapter 17?
Is that how many there are on that committee right now? 9. There's 9 on there. I mean, is there not? Okay. It's not full.
We're not kicking anybody.
We're not
out.
kicking anybody.
No other considerations? Need a motion to approve the new Chapter 17?
So moved. Second.
Motion seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
That includes reducing to 7, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Any public comment on public improvement. Back to you, John.
All right, thank you. Move to Public Works, chaired by Mr. Chair.
Thank you. On the old sidewalk replacement, Richard, we don't need a ordinance or anything to change that, do we? Can we just have a,
What we would need to do, for what we are going to do, I think, yes, as far as permitting, and then incorporate it in an ordinance, would be the best way to do it. And we may just do that ordinance as part of the codification when we do the trees. I know the codifier has already suggested a lot of revisions to the chapter on streets.
well, if we do a new ordinance, we need to put in there something about, you know, a lot of them guys that mix up their own mix and put it in there. We need to put in there about how much it tests for, you know, whether it's, they're bringing it from a plant. When they make a cylinder, they break that, it's gotta break at a certain poundage. And that sidewalk needs to be where it's so solid that somebody don't drive over it with a car and break it. And if that sidewalk they take out is in a driveway where somebody drives over it, we need to specify that it has to be 5 or 6 inches deep there, because 4-inch won't last. And the same way on the curve, if we decide what they gotta do with a curve, that needs to be put in there, you know. Harold can tell you more about the poundage, the braking and stuff than I can, but I know that if you put some of it in there and you don't mix it right, it's not gonna last. And if it gets any weight on it, it crumbles. And we need to put how thick, I don't know if we got anything in there now on how thick.
I can send something to
As long as we have the specifications, we could work it into what's being revised in the chapter on streets. As long as we have those specifications, whatever they may be.
Well, let's see if we can move this to the next meeting and get it where, we get all that together. You know, Charlie's not here tonight, and Darren's not here. But we do need that in there, otherwise guys will be mixing the wheelbarrow and shoveling it in there, you know. And we need to come off a concrete truck and be good concrete to go down to put that stuff back. So I'll give it those guys and see what we can get rolled in there. Try to have it where we can vote on the ordinance next meeting.
Yeah, well, somebody would have to get all of that to me.
Huh?
Someone will need to get all of that to me, because I'm not gonna know what to put in it.
Yeah. Well, I don't necessarily have to, but we can still tell them
It can become part of the process.
if, you know, we give Charlie an idea, he can tell them when they come in and buy a contractor's permit, or they're gonna cut a sidewalk, okay, you gotta put it back a certain way. You know, it's better for us, and it's better for the people that's walking on that sidewalk. Any questions on that part? And under the new business, on North 7th Street where they quit putting in a new 7th Street, and there up the Illinois Avenue is personally a horse and buggy trail now.
That's bad, you can't
I mean-
hardly get 2 cars down
No, I know
at the
it.
same time.
Well, right there on one corner, in the summer you can't pull out because you can't see back north, but,
phase
Right.
to do, which is why it's going to be so expensive to do that section, like the 7th Street we did, because of all the retaining walls.
Right.
There'll be property that has to be purchased, you know, the last house as you turn to go back out to the east, will probably have to come out because there's no turning radius on any of that street.
Is that just oil and chip right now? I mean, is that,
Whatever's been put in there,
think it's just oil and chip.
It would need a lot of base work.
Mhm.
There's a lot of problems with that street. I drove it the other day.
Yeah, it's rough. I drive it a lot.
Have
I
you
mean-
prepared an estimate for phase two?
No, we have not, and it was, well, it was, IDOT made us phase it whenever we went in with phase one.
Do we have a weight limit on that section of road? I mean, is that something, I mean, so are we seeing an increased truck, do you know if we're seeing an increased truck
No,
traffic
we,
for that
we
area?
bought two Illinois Avenue.
Right.
Well, still got-
I mean, I know I've seen them come off of Somerset before.
Yeah, I mean, it could be improved enough where, you know, but as far as widening it or anything like that, it would be kind of tough.
I mean, I didn't know where we were requiring them to go out to the north if they come out of either Boston or out of future.
Idea to do that.
I mean, I would think, you know, obviously you're gonna get some stragglers that go through there and ignore it, but I think if, for the most part, if we communicate with Samron or whoever else is out there that put up some signage that
Yeah.
truck traffic restricted from here.
It was, at one time, we had a sign out there, no truck traffic, I thought by this point. Because several years ago, they was coming up to Illinois Avenue and making that right turn and catching that woman's wall and everything, so we put an ordinance in and turn to go to Boston down the old railroad.
That'd be
From that point,
Yeah.
from that point up to Illinois Avenue, there was nothing even as small as a dump truck empty allowed on that road.
I know I see them coming off of Somerset, you know, and that's
Tim?
It would be
south of there.
beneficial to have some signage in the industrial park for a lot of those trucks that are leaving, that they can't make that left turn back on the side of the street.
I know, yeah, you could just put,
Right then, because we do, I've seen it, especially during the winter. I know, I guess it was different during, they were redoing 7th Street, 6th Street.
and I think it would be simple as putting a sign up that says truck traffic restricted so many feet ahead, you know. But obviously, that's not gonna fix the road either, the way it is right now.
Yeah, and-
Help us in, you know, but it's still, that road's rough.
I mean, we can only
Well-
put a price on just in it, oil and chipping it, or even asphalting, maybe some options and go with that. It's still gonna be probably the same width, because I think without additional right of way, we're.
Well, I think the only reason you can't get two cars down there right now is because the potholes are so
Potholes.
bad on the side of the road, one's gotta wait to get, for the other car to get by to. Got all the potholes.
Well, the cold patch, you put the cold patch down there, and it's not gonna last that long. If you get it down on chip over, it'll last longer, but, if you had the hot machine, which they're pretty expensive too, they're probably $60,000-$70,000. You get the hot patch there and you put it down, it lasts. Cause they got a little, you know, the 2 foot. You put that stuff down pretty good, but cold patch is not designed to last for a long time. It's a quick fix. And,
I think that's all Chuck was asking whenever he called, was, he was just looking at potholes and trying to save some vehicles from whenever they drove up and down the road. He wasn't looking for anything major, but just some simple repairs to fix.
I will call Darren in the morning. Let him know, go out and look at it. I mean, we borrow cold patch right up the road. So, you know, they get some of them in.
And I wouldn't mind seeing an estimate for what it would cost to get it repaired and
just to
oil
get
and
it.
chipped, you know, like.
Sure.
I don't know
In the
that,
meantime, we may coordinate with Samron when they're making hot patch, just gonna be a couple times.
Right.
Go with that.
Yeah, and I'm sure blocking that traffic. And I, from Boston, no, drive that road.
just the weight
Yeah, when
limit.
they get
Yeah.
enterprise, they're not gonna see that sign, that distinct It needs to be at the stop sign saying, hey, man.
There probably needs to be a few of them, you know, like,
Right. So they know
I'll
they
look
get
for that
that away, but
ordinance.
once they get down there.
I seem to recall that
they
also,
do.
Gary.
and then it's just a matter of matching up signs, what our ordinance says, you know, putting it.
I'll try to drive it tomorrow. That sign, I'm sure that sign was up at one time, but with everything going on out there, and it could have been back down where they've redone 7th Street with so many feet ahead, you couldn't have truck
Unless
traffic.
I looked for one last week when I drove it, and I didn't see one going, you know, because that was something that, I thought that was, because I think when Boston bought that railroad bed, you know, that was one of the things, their trucks, you know, like, I know my grandpa used to tell everybody their trucks had to go north out of the, and he hasn't been out there in a long time, so.
Well, get with Darren in the morning, see about getting the potholes fixed.
Checking in the signage.
I mean, it's gonna be cold patch, that's all you can get in out there at this time. But
Any public comment on Public Works? All right, Public Safety, old business, new business, consideration of declaring 5 aluminum liners as surplus. Don't know where they're coming from. Fire?
So we've got 5 old aluminum ladders that came off previous trucks. They're no longer NFPA certified. They've been sitting down in Station 2 for...
Since 1991, some of them.
Yeah, a long time. They are of no use to us, but they are worth aluminum scrap price, and it would clear up some much needed real estate in that building also, so we'd like to declare them surplus so that we can get them out of there.
you can't take them to the auction cheap
Don't want to take
because
on the
they're
liability of it, Gary,
because they're unsafe.
Yeah, they're unsafe.
All right, we have a motion to declare the,
Might be better what we're using to get in that hole.
They're not, I don't want anybody to get on them. They're not certified.
Neither are ours.
They're super heavy too. I mean,
Who's certified
I
ladder?
don't carry them anymore.
motion,
I move we declare them surplus.
Second.
second, all in favor? All right, that passes, Chief.
thank you.
Any public comment on public safety? If not, move to personnel, and Ms. Hughes isn't here, and she doesn't have anything in the old new or public, or is there public comment on personnel? I have no information for the mayor's report. I do know he posted something on Facebook about the basketball court, but I don't know,
It was on Channel 3 News.
was it?
So the logo is there, and they're still working on the rest of
And then we vote
Cardinals
to
are here
pay
one
for the signage.
We did that a long time ago, I
Yeah.
believe.
All right, and I don't know what Phelpsbury is. Do you know what Phelpsbury update
it.
is?
I don't know what the update is.
What is Phelpsbury?
Oh, our lobbyist.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
I
okay,
know
yeah.
he's been talking with them quite a bit this week.
that's to get our money released out of the budget.
Yeah.
Annually.
Maybe going up there to knock on doors.
Hey, Chief, while we're at it, then get the new one. I want somebody to fall off one of them in a manhole.
Yeah, just a little extension ladder.
I know you gotta have good ladders, because a lot of manhole steps are not safe to walk on anymore. So, yeah, you get them, it ain't worth somebody getting hurt.
All right, Councilmember. Mr. Ryan?
I just want to thank Don and Sandra and whoever else was involved in going through all those ordinances. That had to just be amazing.
Thank you again when they're done.
It won't be as easy as what you're saying.
It still was thrilling work though, right?
Silent stuff. Austin?
No, I don't have anything, thank you.
Ms. Jackson?
Yes, I'd just like to thank everyone for your prayers. My mother, she did have a stroke, but she's back. She's at Heron Rehab. She's doing really well, and she's supposed to be discharged on May the 1st. So I just thank you for your prayers. I truly appreciate it.
I have nothing, thank you.
Are you going?
We'll see, we don't have those kind of people anymore. Sullivan died. Tim Ward did it. He's no longer with us. We'll just have to see if anybody's available to work them. The last couple of years, me and Darren worked it out to where I think one day we've been able to get somebody, and then the other day he's been able to put somebody down there, give or take for the last.
That just, it saves a little trouble if you have any problems with, because every time we get somebody now, when they come in, the township don't pay nothing, so we gotta be strict with that. So I've had several, eventually, but, you know, and even if it's one of the renters, you know. And if you can't get Saturday, let me know. Sandra might need overtime. Her and Larry worked till 1 year. But we'll get something worked out on it. I just want to bring it to your attention.
All right, Mr. Strack?
Nothing at this time.
Gladden?
Nothing tonight, sir.
Richard? Sandra?
There's a couple flyers. Help just spread the word on these events, that'd be great.
Yep.
Scott?
The audit has started, so.
So your tax season's extended.
Chief McBride?
Good, thank you.
Mr. Manaway? Mr. Shepherd? Ms. Valley?
Nothing, thank you.
Mr. Lee? Mr. Pat? Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Cardinals are ahead 1-0.
All right, thank you.
Understand all the nuts and bolts, but we just talked about it at church, and I don't want to get paid. Down there, the church is different from a municipality. Municipality that they've guaranteed it for 7 years. That's why I asked that question. Plus,